My name is Audrey Trotter. I'm a faculty member here at Merritt College, and I currently serve as the director of our Learning Center and our Title III grant project, and I want to welcome you to this fabulous activity today. That's the beginning of a very exciting time that will begin in January of 2013. You are the people that are going to make it happen. The Title III grant here at the college is in its 5th year, and our goal has been to have activities centered on curriculum and instruction, professional development for our faculty, administrators, and staff, and a better integration of all the support services for students with all the things that go on in the classroom. So one of the things that we're doing now is this new thing. We're calling it the Merritt College Institutional Integrative Learning Project for Spring 2013. Right now, my goal is just to open the program. Dr. Stacy Thompson, I really want to thank her. She's our Dean of Student Pathways and Success. Long title. But Dr. Thompson has been working with us on the Title III grant since its planning stages way back in 2005 and 2006. And she also, even in her dean's role, has continued to serve as the lead person in facilitating what we call learning community activities here at the college. And she has really brought together faculty to discuss different innovative ways of teaching and making what you learn in the classroom more relevant. And she's really led the charge for this integrative learning assignment, and I really want to thank her a lot. And that's Dr. Stacy Thompson. We're going to call her up here. But the other thing is, I would be amiss if I didn't thank all of the Title III project staff currently. That would be one of our coordinators. She's not here today, but that's Dr. Siri Brown in Afram. We also have Ms. Deborah Jacks from Student Services. Our president is going to give a welcome and introduce all of our administrators in a minute. And then there are a couple of people, but one specifically, most of you have come in contact with her if you're working with the Title III grant. Her name is Alejandra Tomas. Alejandra, I really want to thank her because she really makes things happen, and I don't have to ask her ever. She just knows what to do, and she gets it done, and she did an excellent job in assisting in the preparation for today's program. So at this point, I'd like to call up Dr. Stacy Thompson. I'd like to call up our president, Dr. Patricia Stanley, who will give a welcome to all of you and introduce the college administrators. Dr. Stanley.
Thank you, and I want to add my thanks to Stacy and Audrey and all the people on the Title III. You're very, very fortunate here at Merritt to have this Title III grant because it gives us that opportunity to do things that we might not otherwise be able to do. And what we do here at Merritt is change lives through education. And so I'm so excited to see this happening here. It's really cutting edge. Before I came to Merritt, I was involved in writing a monograph for community colleges about first-year experience and what we should do at community colleges. And one of the things in there is learning college and doing things like having these learning communities. And so excited to find that we're doing them here. So you are very fortunate to be at Merritt during a time when we're doing such exciting work. At this point, you've met Stacy. She's one of our administrators. Anita Black, our interim vice president of instruction, is here. And she's only going like this. We do have other administrators, of course, but hopefully they're working very hard doing whatever it is they're supposed to be doing because they're not here. And then we also have Charles Neal from the district. Where is he? Back there. Does sustainability. So it's nice to know we have support from the district as well. So welcome everyone, take advantage of this. It's a really exciting project. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. Yes, I know you're all here because food matters at Merritt College, right? Right. We have some excellent tables from our wonderful faculty. We absolutely have some nutritious eats for you at the end, and I hope that you can be patient and hang out while we listen to our fabulous speaker today. So I won't keep you. I just want you to know what the long-term goal of all of this is. Having a cross-disciplinary integrative assignments is to have one or more faculty members from each discipline throughout Merritt College participate with one integrative learning assignment that's centered around the theme of food matters at Merritt College. And if you look at this, if you go to all these tables, which you have to go to at least 5 tables in order to get food today, so I'm sure you'll see all the tables, you'll see how this notion of food it spans every discipline at the college. And so looking at this one issue from a variety of different perspectives is what our goal is in terms of having these conversations around food. So we have monthly activities planned around food, starting, this is our kickoff. We're going to have something in January, February, March, and our culminating activity will be in April, where we will have another big event like this that really look on Earth Day and really look at food and how it matters. It's my honor to introduce our guest speaker today. She is, if you've gotten any of the emails or seen any of the flyers, you know that Judith Scott has been a professional actor for over 27 years. She was a child star. She was a star when she was a baby, yes? She is a 6-year veteran of the Chicago and Toronto Second City Theater. Her company includes Chris Farley and Joel Murphy. She also wrote a 2-person play about the cooking exploits in Tuscany called La Regina, and a one-person account which is a one-person account about her genealogical travels through the South, the Book of Judith. Judith is also a theater producer, director, acting coach. Movie and television credits include Flight Plan. Do you recognize her? Yeah. Flight Plan, Fracture, Guess Who, Dexter. You weren't a serial killer, were you? No. Okay. Okay. Lincoln Heights, House of Pain. Judith is a food activist but spends most of her time in the kitchen and eats for pleasure, as do we all. I'd like to welcome Ms. Judith Scott.
Thank you all. I am really excited to be here. Apparently, the person who had been initially invited is some lazy writer named Frances Moore LePay. And she was too busy or something. So I was asked to come, and I'm very thrilled to be here. I don't normally speak publicly, so you'll bear with me. If any of you feel so inclined to move closer to me, that would make me feel, as a performer, a little bit more enveloped in your generous listening energies. That as a theater actor or a theater animal, I kind of need your heat. Come on forward, children. Come forward. Move your center, people. I see you in the center. Move forward. Your brains are saying yes, but your bodies are saying no. I'm going to tell you a few stories, and it'll give you an indication of how food has played out through my life. I carry these. They are in my purse all the time. I do not throw away plastic at all. When I was 7 years old, I had very long hair. My mother used to spend one day out of the month washing and oiling, and she would braid it up into little dookie braids. And one day I came home with my hair wild out, like like the snakes of Medusa. And I walked in the door and I asked my mother, "Mom, what's nigger food?" And what had happened is someone at school had said to me, "You eat nigger food." Because my mother was making homemade biscuits with sausage and wrapping it in wax paper. So shortly after that, my mother stopped having, I don't know if any of you remember, in the old days, they used to keep cans of grease at the back of the stove. Anybody old enough to remember that? Okay. Well, that went away, and we started eating canned goods. We started eating frozen foods. And my father's people, who were in the country and owned hogs and farmland, my uncle had an opinion about that. He didn't think that was very, he didn't like the idea that we were eating canned foods. And I took that to heart. And as I grew older, certainly into my teens, I had a kind of strike against white food. I wouldn't eat white rice. I wouldn't eat white bread. I wouldn't drink milk. I just had some aversion to white food. It had nothing to do with color, race. It had something to do with the lack of color. I was then eventually grounded quite frequently for eating the carrots because I wanted to eat mostly vegetables. I didn't know why I was attracted to these things. I just was. And my mother always grounded me towards the end of the week because she would go to make her what do you call that? Her roast, which I wouldn't eat. But I had eaten all the carrots. So I think I was a little bit ahead of my time then. A few years ago, maybe 11 years ago, I traveled to, let me start over. I was asked to cook for a family in Beverly Hills, and they had a 5-star chef that had been traveling and living with them for 27 years. And friends of theirs knew that I liked to cook, and introduced me to this family. Now, their 5-star chef was from Burkina Faso, and he was a very elegant man. And he got ill and had to go away for a few months, so I came in to cook. And they liked me so much, they asked me to go to Tuscany for 6 weeks. This was a little bit absurd, but I said yes, because I say yes to things, which is why I'm here today. And I made a beautiful little booklet filled with menus for 6 weeks that I was going to cook. But see, in Tuscany, they only had like 4 things: garlic, tomatoes, pasta, basil, not so much in Tuscany. That's not a big basil. That's more than northern. What else do they have? Oh, olive oil, lots of olive oil. And when I got there, the household was a villa, the Ferragamos, the shoe people. So I was cooking inside the Ferragamos summer home for this family from England. And they had hired in a household staff, and I was the head chef. This is all very funny to me now. We had uniforms assigned to us, and I rejected the uniform. There was a young woman from Portugal, and she wore the uniform, but she didn't wear deodorant, so we were sort of, you know. And Maria, my assistant, braided my hair in cornrows, and I was barefoot for 6 weeks cooking in the kitchen, wearing a little black t-shirt and a long black skirt. So I was a rebellious cook, and I had to make meals 3 times a day for all their guests, and frequently I was invited to sit at the table, having cooked my meals. Now, I'll tell you something. Once I got there and I realized the limitation that I had with the recipes or the ingredients, Maria, who speaks Portuguese and Italian, and I speak a little bit of French, I would speak my broken French to her, and she would speak her Italian to me. And she basically told me what to make. So Maria really was the cook. But I was sort of the preparer and would go out and make this great, big, beautiful presentation. It was a fairly interesting time. Now, after that time, the family invited me to come back to Beverly Hills to hang out with them at Christmas time the following year, and I said yes, as long as they paid me $1,000 a day. So I never heard from them again. About 4 years ago, I traveled to the South. I was doing some genealogy work, and I flew to Tennessee, which is where my mother and father were born and raised, and I rented a car, and because I do not like maps and I really like adventures, I just started driving into the Smoky Mountains. And I knew that I was going to land inside the koala boundary, which is where the original Cherokee people are from. And I was looking for my father's people. I didn't find them there. And I drove on into North Carolina and into South Carolina. I found my father's people. And then eventually made my way into Georgia, into the northeast corner of Georgia, which is where my mother's people are from. Now, they're from the deep, and I mean deep, piney woods of Georgia. And I crashed family reunions and a couple of funerals and some homecomings. And I had a suitcase filled with photographs of my great-grandfather, and would find the oldest person in wherever I was and ask them if they remembered this man. And of course, many of these people who were in their 90s and early hundreds did remember him. And so I ended up carrying away from me about 300 people on my father's side and about 300 people on my mother's side. Now, what was interesting about my mother's side is because they lived so deep in the country, what was available to them for food was snakes and rabbits, wild rabbits, and squirrels. And my young cousins, who are several generations younger than me, would lament to me how sad it was that their grandmother was dead and that they couldn't garden anymore, and they really missed their grandmother's squirrel with gravy. Now, I never ate any of those things with them because nobody knew how to cook it. But this was a big aria with them, that they couldn't eat these foods anymore. I also met a woman named Aunt Sis. She is kind of a distant relative of mine, and she has about 27 members in her family. Now, Aunt Sis, when you go to her house for breakfast, she makes you scrambled eggs, sausage, flour, and salted bacon. That means that she flours the bacon, puts salt on it, and then fries it. Yes, wow. Salmon croquettes, biscuits, grits, baked apples, and crackling every day. And I ate it, and it was so good. But that was a lot of pig, a lot of pig. Aunt Sis used to, well, when I was there, she would stand in the corner. She's a very tall lady, and a sort of very outgoing personality. And she would say, "I'm gonna watch what that girl's gonna eat. What's she gonna eat? Lord, she gonna eat everything." She couldn't believe that I would eat the things that she had made. For some reason, she thought I was going to eat differently. But I'm someone who, when I travel, I eat whatever's there. And I think that's kind of an important rule of thumb when you're traveling. Eat what's there. The people that I met in the South taught me a lot about my bloodline foods. And I'm grateful for that, because as a child, my mother left our bloodline foods behind, and we began to eat in the corporate system. And I think what's happening now is we're all eating off the corporate system, the corporate trough. In the late 80s, I started to hear about a thing called genetically modified organisms. Monsanto was being profiled in a magazine called Utne Magazine. Has anyone ever heard of this magazine? So in the mid-'80s, Utne Magazine was writing about GMOs, and I took note of that. I didn't know why that was important, I just took note of it. And shortly after, I read a book that spoke about seeds as life, and that Monsanto was wanting to own the rights to life. In the 90s, I moved to Canada for 5 years, and I met some amazing people who really taught me how to cook again. And I remember this woman said to me, she was single, and she said to me, "I never want to be someone who's leaning at the kitchen sink eating out of a can." She said, "When you can, make a meal for yourself, sit down, set the table, and eat well, whether you're alone or with others." And that to me is civilized. And it's not hard to do. It's a beautiful thing to do for yourself. And it's certainly against what the world seems to conspire you to not do. The world conspires you not to enjoy your food. So when I returned to the States in the mid-'90s, this is 1995, I was eating tofu, because you did that in the 90s. And I noticed that on the tofu packages, it said non-GMO. And for about a year, I began to slowly see that the tofu packages were not saying non-GMO. That label was disappearing. And by the end of 1996, the non-GMO label on tofu, on all soy, was gone. Now, I don't know if any of you know much about genetically modified foods, but those foods were introduced into our food table in 1996. And they have been linked with wide spectrum autism, Alzheimer's or type 3 diabetes. They are also linked with premature aging. They are linked with sterility in males and spontaneous abortion in females, allergies, and a whole host of other things. So in 1996, these foods came into our food system. The FDA, without testing or approval, allowed them to come in, and we've seen the rise in all of the things I just mentioned, including cancers. In the year 2000, there was a lot of conversation, which many people weren't very aware of, but there was a lot of conversation about allergies. And in 2004, a large group of Americans got together and they created a petition, and they went to, who did they go to? They created the Food Allergy Labeling Law. It was approved in 2004 by the USDA. Now, if you look on the package of any food, most foods, and this is a voluntary label, what you'll see on the back is no soy, or no corn, or may have been manufactured in a factory where nuts are present. That is a law that was fought for by American citizens and turned into a law. And that is because because the GMOs were making us increasingly sick. Everyone's aware of Prop 37, correct? We didn't win, but we didn't really lose, because the tipping point is being reached. Right now, statewide, or I'm going to say countrywide, they're looking to do a 50-state initiative, which would take this to the federal level, which would make this a law in the United States that they have to put the GMO label on the foods. I think that's very exciting. I also think it's odd that we have to make a law for multinational corporations to tell us what's in our food. That's another discussion. I want you to know or pay attention that between Halloween and Easter is called flu season. Between Halloween and Easter. And so what do these holidays all have in common other than egregious shopping? Sugar, exactly. And sugar is an immune suppressant. So what's happening is you're being sold a lot of candy, a lot of sugar-based foods. And people's immunity systems go down, and then you're invited to have a flu shot, which I would highly recommend that you not do. After flu season comes allergy season. And you'll notice if you watch television that there's a lot of advertisement for allergy season, and it's very cute. There's cartoons with little bees, and the bees are your problem, and the pollen is your problem, and the trees are your problem, and the animals are your problem. But the truth of the matter is the sugar is the problem, and your immunity system is degraded. So I'm offering that as a freebie. Pay attention and see if you can refrain from sugar. You know, food now has turned into what Michael Pollan calls nutritionism, which means we are all eating for nutrition. For a while, it was about fiber. We don't hear about fiber anymore, and now it's about, what are those things called? What's it called when you are free radicals, and omega-3, omega-6s, and this sort of thing. So everything is turned into science. And you're the science experiment. Everything is scientific now around food. Now, I think that's very interesting. And I think it's also interesting if you pay attention to your response to food when you're in the world. In other words, pay attention to what happens when you see certain kinds of food. Are you salivating? Is your stomach growling? Are your eyes I mean, to pay attention to your human technology. And I suggest that you turn the technology that is advancing on you and strengthen your human technology, which is your senses, right? Your eyes, your hearing, your taste buds, your voice, your heart, your belly, and your sexuality. And pay attention to what parts of your human technology are being stimulated when you're watching advertisements about food, or when you're in a restaurant, or a fast food place, or a package store, and you're just reaching for a snack or for a drink. Pay attention to what all of your senses are doing when you're shopping for these things. I'm going to suggest that it's time for us all to take back our senses, to reclaim our eyes and our taste buds and our voice and our hearts and our gut and our sexuality. I don't know what the average age in here is. I'm 51 years old. These foods have been on the market for a portion of my life, and on the whole, I am vigilant about them. But the kids who came in 1996 and onward, this is what's going to be predominantly in their foods. And those of you who are young enough to who are participating in this amazing program that Merit is offering, just be aware that the salesmanship behind these foods is genius and sinister. And there is no good, and there is a big difference between eating well, eating organic, and not. I won't get into the topic of organics versus conventional foods, but trust me, in the long run, it's worth the $3 for whatever fruit or vegetable you're going to buy versus the long-term hospital bills that most people encounter when they've lived on these things. I have never considered myself a feminist until this year, when I realized that the human female has been saying to the government and to whoever out there is making laws that they have a right. The human female says, I have a right. And I suggest that the human female should be fighting for the rights of all reproductive animals and the planet. The planet is a reproducing entity. Nature is a reproducing entity. Animals, seeds, plants, all of life is reproductive. And quite frankly, male or female, I believe that the political language now is going to go away, it's going to die, and we're all going to be speaking a language that is about holding on to our planet and managing our senses and humanizing ourselves again and using human language to connect to one another and not corporate language. I would like to thank, I want to call everybody here a doctor. I'm going to just say that. I'm going to make sure everybody's a doctor. I would like to thank Dr. Audrey Trotter for inviting me here today. Thank you. And I would like to thank Dr. Alejandra Thomas for being a rock star organizer. This girl is on it. And I would like to thank Dr. Nahanda Imera for thinking of me. Thank you. I want to say this one more time. We are human beings. We are a part of a wide web of a living organism. So don't get it twisted. There's nothing more important than your senses. Nothing more important than that. So thank you very much.
lovely. Thank you so much. Let's give her another round of applause. Thank you so much.
My name is Tara Marchand, and I am the director of Oakland Emerald Cities, our Emerald Cities, Oakland of the Bay Area Emerald Cities, of the larger Emerald Cities Collaborative, which is based in Washington, D.C. We are a 10-city collaborative councils, and our efforts is to retrofit the built environment. I won't go into details because there are some paper, programs that can tell you a little bit more about us. But we're really committed to generating job creation, curriculum, education, enhancing the workforce opportunity for communities of color and disadvantaged communities. And a place like Peralta and the community colleges throughout the country are the best place to really generate that space. We have awesome faculty here, we have great leadership, and Emerald Cities Collaborative itself, I want to honor Denise Fairchild, who's sitting there in her beautiful outfit, who is relentless. I mean, the other day a friend of mine said, she was having me pick up a box, and she goes, "Let me pick it up, Tara, I'm technically younger than you." And I'm like, that's what I feel with Denise. I'm like, oh my God. We keep running around, and she keeps saying, let's do more. And we're like, oh my God, we really need sleep, Denise. But it's really an extraordinary experience to be with that kind of leadership, positive, invigorated, the possibilities. You will continue to thrive and develop because of your commitment and your belief. So today's event is really to sort of see the future of what we can create. It's happening all around us. I mean, there are some extraordinary people developing extraordinary outcomes. But we really need to have a place to share them, because it's in the sharing and the collaboration that more people can take up those innovations and those thought processes and share it and expand it. So we're going to start here with a little honoring of the people who have really made this happen. We're going to do a tour of some of Laney's innovations and pilots that they've created that actually show what a campus can provide and thrive and share with the community. And then we're going to actually take a break at that point and then have an investor forum. So I want to start the day with some of the people who made this possible. I feel really honored because when Denise said, go out and talk to your community colleges, and I sat down with Charles Neal, who, by the way, is looking for coffee and pastries for you guys right now. And hopefully he'll get to speak. He keeps saying, Tara, you keep assigning me these speaking roles, and then I keep not being there to be able to speak. So hopefully he'll come back with pastries and coffee and have a chance to share with you what Peralta is up to. But it really was an honor for me to reach out to my friend and somebody who really believes in community education, Abel Guion, who's the trustee here. And get such open, welcoming arms from Peralta. I mean, it was instant. They said, yes, let's do it. We're committed to it. We want the partnership. We believe in partnership. So I'm going to start by introducing Abel Guion, who is a trustee and running for assembly here in California. Give a round of applause for Abel.
Good morning, everyone. How's everybody feeling? Good. There's a lot of open seats up front here, so please make yourselves comfortable and come on down. The day is gloomy, but our future is bright, isn't it? That's right. Good morning. I wanted to just take the opportunity to welcome all of you to the Peralta Community College District. Laney is our flagship campus of the Peralta colleges. We have Merritt College, College Alameda, Berkeley City College. And on behalf of our Chancellor, Jose Ortiz, who isn't here this morning, our President, Cy Galassa, and the entire Board of Trustees, I want to welcome you to Laney. This is an exciting day because I think that this is Laney has a theme that Dr. Webb will talk about. It's Laney Leads. And I think that's one of the mantras of today, of what we do best at the community college system, is we partner. We partner with organizations, and we're able to adjust to the needs of our economy and to our our immediate community. Here at Laney College, we're not new to vocational training and education. We've been providing it for the last 40 years. And indeed, California community colleges are the backbone of our economy here in the state. And without community colleges, I don't know where our economy would be. It's no secret that community colleges, as a child of the state, have been under attack. And here at the Peralta Colleges, attack from budget cuts, here at the Peralta Colleges over the last 3 years, it's been unfortunate that we've had to cut almost $20 million from our budget. That's not just a number. That means that we've turned around, or turned away, I should say, over 4,300 students that are looking for new skills, new training, educational opportunities. For us, it means we've turned away or cut over 18,000 class sections, 18,000 class sections. So this is the backdrop in which we gather here today, and why this is so important is because we know that as a community college, we can't do things alone. We look to our partners, we look to our private investors, we look for our community to come together and say, hey, this is something that makes sense for us. This is something that we need to invest in for the future to make sure that our students have the jobs, not only for today, but for the future, and that's what we're doing here. I can't think of any better example than the collaboration that we have here. There's so many people that have made this happen, and you'll be hearing from those folks in the program shortly. With that, I'd like to let you know that professionally, I'm a financial advisor for community colleges and school districts up down California, and it's one thing that every school district, every community college needs is financing opportunities. How can they make their local dollars go further? How can they stretch out their needs? And I think what we are pioneering here today is a model that other school districts throughout the state of California can actually use to say, hey, we've got some public facilities available. We have private partners and investors that can help us actually stretch our dollars further to be able to do more by partnering with other entities. So I'm really excited about that, what this means for the future of other community colleges up and down the state. I wanted to acknowledge or thank PG&E. Is Peter Turnbull here? Oh, there he is, Peter. It's my honor to now turn over the podium to Peter Turnbull, who is with PG&E Net Zero Energy Program, who is partnering with us in this endeavor. Thank you very much, Peter, for joining us here today.
Good morning. I was asked to say a couple of words about PG&E and the big picture in energy and why we're supporting the project here. And just maybe for a minute or so, the big picture in California is really AB 32, the 2006 Global Warming Solutions Act. What that really does, it says we want to cut our greenhouse gas emissions to 1990 levels by the year 2020, which is something like a 30% reduction from the baseline. And then by 2050, we want to cut them by 80%. So that's kind of the big picture in energy policy. And of course, PG&E is regulated mainly by the CPUC that oversees expending that the investor-owned utilities like PG&E in California do. There's a strategic plan to reach the goals that would be required by AB 32. The California Energy Commission, also another one of the regulatory agencies, administers the codes and standards in California. So everyone that's had a building permit knows about Title 24. If you want to build a building in California, it has to be energy efficient. And the CEC updates Title 24, the energy efficiency standards, every 3 years, and is ratcheting those, I don't know whether we're supposed to say down or up, but it's ratcheting them in the direction of greater efficiency by about 30% every 3 years. And so those are some things in the big picture for the state. Now, as far as PG&E's programs go, we spend in the range of $400 million a year, a little bit more, a little bit less some years, to promote energy efficiency. We do a lot of that, of course, with rebates and incentives, but we also do things like the Zero Net Energy Pilot Program, where we support projects such as the Best Center here at Laney College. This is just a small program, and the idea is to be exploratory with our program. We do consultations with people building highly efficient buildings. We do assessment work about what are some of the technical things that need to happen to advance buildings so that they can be zero net energy. And we also do a lot of training and education in this area. More broadly, PG&E is committed to environmental leadership, compliance, and transparency. The power mix in California is actually about half of the national average when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions per unit of energy delivered. And PG&E is in about something like half of the national average there. So PG&E and the state have a really pretty clean power mix as it is. Why the Laney Best Center, what was attractive to PG&E about that project, and why should we support it? Pretty simple, really. We had recognized the need for workforce training around energy efficiency, and that spans a very wide range. We get involved with high-end architectural engineering firms doing all kinds of fancy simulation work, but the real on-the-ground work are the people that are going to build the buildings, that are going to insulate the buildings, install the equipment, make sure it's operating correctly, so on and so forth. And the community colleges are, of course, key to that, and the Best Center is a great example there. As far as what's next for PG&E and zero net energy, we're really integrating our efforts from a pilot stage into the mainline programs that we offer. And so you'll be seeing more about that as we move forward with our next funding cycles. Now that's really what I have to say, and I don't have who I'm introducing next, unfortunately, so I'll turn it back to you.
I was actually sitting next to the next person to speak, and I said, I'm not sure if I told him he was supposed to introduce you, so I may be running up there to do so. We have the people who sort of oversee Laney or help us externally, but it really does come from the internal leadership. And all up the chain, either from the person who has the largest title, like the chancellor, down to the people on the grounds. Laney is really a very integrated and welcoming facility and place. And one of the people that I feel really grateful to be working with, who did actually run and get us pastries, is Charles Neal, the sustainability manager for Peralta, because he's so committed to this. This gentleman is not going to slack, and when they gave him a task, he has been running so hard, and he calls him up because I sent you a document, and it's a legal document, and can you look at it, and we need your assistance, and we're going to be moving this forward. And it's so nice to have that kind of partnership with somebody so committed, because he keeps me on my game. So I'm going to give the microphone over to him so he can introduce to you the wonderful staff here at Laney. So give Charles Neal a hand.
You're welcome. Good morning. Warm welcome to everyone here to our campus. Thank you very much. Emerald Cities Collaborative, for sure. We really appreciate the partnership. Flat Architects, Interface Engineering. PG&E, Danielle, happy to see you here. Just so good to see everyone. You never know what these kinds of jobs call for. As I'm driving in this morning, kind of going over my head what I was going to say, I get this call that said, we don't have any pastries out here. And we don't have any coffee. Can you bring the pastries you normally bring to our other meeting? I said, well, I can't bring that stuff because I'm way past that bakery right now. I'm on the campus. But let me turn around and go patronize the donut shop right on the corner. And I was in there bargaining too, because I said, how come I don't get a baker's dozen? And the guy said, I've never heard of that. Okay. Anyhow, again, welcome. So we're very proud to be going forward with this particular project. We think it'll be quite a feather in our cap, in the district's cap as well. Just to, it's really demonstrative of the district's commitment to sustainability. Back in 2005, the board, this district, formulated a very, very aggressive sustainability policy. And we've been chipping away at it ever since, but suffice it to say that their target is to get the entire district to net zero carbon emissions. That's a tall order. We've got to look at buildings, we've got to look at transportation, we've got to look at food, we have to look at procurement. So we are working on a number of fronts. And any help that we can get our hands on in terms of community partnership is welcome. It's needed because it's not something that we can do alone. I mean, we've all heard that the more money you have, the greener you can be. So, so there are actually always two greens that we talk about. There's environmentally green, and then there's the money green. Because these buildings cost money. It costs us money to put in a composting and recycling program. Everything costs quite a bit of money. So I thank the district for its commitment. We, in terms of our building, you should know a little overview about the district. So we have 4 campuses. We're a multi-campus district. Anywhere from 20 to 25,000 students total full and part-time per year that cycles through this district, and probably about 2,000 faculty and staff. So we have a lot of people to reach out to, and we're in a slightly different situation because our students tend to be transitory, if you will. They're not here for 4 years as they might be at some other universities. They're here for a year, 2 years, and then we have to do the best we can to get them involved and attack the behavioral component, which is the most challenging part of any sustainability. So with that said, high-level strategy for us is taking a look at buildings, taking a look at transportation. I think that's where we'll get the best bang for a buck, and at the same time taking a look at our procurement practices, reaching deeper into our own supply chain. And I believe, who am I introducing next? Dr. Webb. Okay. And I believe I don't want to hog the airtime here, and I do want to bring up Dr. Webb, who is the president of Laney College, and who has been very supportive in all of her efforts to move to advance sustainability within the district and on her campus. It is the flagship campus, so we can do a lot here. She gets, I believe, about 11,000 students a year coming through this campus, so she has quite a responsibility. So with that said, Dr. Webb, please come up.
I love it. Danny Beasley, our dean went to find Dean Crabtree. Would you please come up as efficiently as you can?
Run, Peter, run.
Run, Peter, run. Run quickly, Peter. It's really important to honor the folks who are responsible for the leadership of this institution. I have the honor to be in the formal leadership role. I get to say yes, often. And I work to avoid using the word no every moment of the day. Dean Crabtree is our Dean of Career and Technical Education. Danny Beasley is a consultant who was instrumental in saying to us, Emerald Cities. Cynthia Correa is our Chair of Carpentry. Nick Caracapetti is our Chair of Environmental Control Technology. What you see here are folks who are unwavering in their commitment to the health and well-being of this greater community, and thus influencing the rest of the world. What you see here are folks who have competencies that far exceed what I am going to invest in terms of developing myself, in terms of knowledge and skills, and yet there's sufficient knowledge and skills to ensure that we would come up with a vision that would transform this college, make it a destination point on the planet as a signal to really improving the conditions for all of us and making certain that equity is at the essence of what we seek And equity, not just for the sake of, we all have the same thing, that's equality. We have things that fit for each individual, that's equity. So I want to thank Nick Capetti. When I came on board in 2002 as a dean, this gentleman was a faculty member with a fledgling program saying, we've got to build, we've got to build, we've got to build. And then I was instrumental in bringing on board this dean as the chair of the committee, and our current chancellor was the vice president. He ultimately made the decision with the president at that time, Odell Johnson, in their wisdom to say, get this guy out of the district, get him on the campus so that he can marshal some improvements in career and technical education. That's why Peter is here. Cynthia was here before all of us were here. And she was about the business of making certain that we build a solid carpentry program, and every few years, we build the most solid house in the East Bay. In fact, the students get to build the entire structure, from the foundation to the roof. It's the most energy efficient, stable environment for anyone who's lucky to win the lottery to secure one of those homes. And she works, as Nick does, as Danny does, definitely as the dean does, to bring in partnerships to make certain that we're able to do the critical work that we're about. It's not just about transferring students to a university. That's critical. It's not just about ensuring that people earn a certificate in order to secure a life-sustaining, wage-earning role. That's critical. It's about influencing the nature of our community, of our society, so that we have people who are civic-minded, responsible. From the moment they step on this campus, they metamorph, if you will, to understand the collective responsibility we have for one another, to shape, to redesign, and to develop and sustain a more remarkable society. So I want to thank these individuals. And the reason why we're able to move forward efficiently with the Building Efficiency for a Sustainable Tomorrow Center is because of you, those of you who are present, and those of you who've yet to even show up. You're going to make certain that this site is an extraordinary site. And listen, I cannot say enough about Emerald Cities Collaborative and the leadership that you bring to this community. I cannot say enough. You are inspirational. You remind us that hope is for a reason. It's not some esoteric entity that's conceptualized, it's actualized. So thank you for your leadership. It's invaluable. We just got notice 3 weeks ago, is that right, Peter, Nick? That we are now a national center for the National Science Foundation, one of the few in the country, because of the genius of these individuals and others who are not here. And because of our partnership with the Berkeley National Labs, UC Berkeley, and then entities across the United States. So without further ado, I think I've shared more than my 3 minutes. I want to introduce, oh my God, how could I? I want to introduce the architectural firm Leaders, Flat. Please come up while these wonderful professionals are slowly leaving the stage, if you will, the tennis stage. This gentleman and his team, his colleagues, are awesome. They are not only experts in what they do, and I'll let him illuminate what they do because he can communicate much more effectively than I in this regards. They came on board with the help of our district leadership and said, yes, we can help you, we can help you gather your intelligence and morph it into what you have envisioned. And with the help of this genius over here, you're extraordinary. Your level of competence and knowledge and depth is far beyond what we could have hoped for in this district. So thank you for being here, Charles Neal. Without further ado, I want this genius of an expert who has done phenomenal work beyond just the Bay Area to share what they envisioned for us based upon our visioning with them.
Good morning, and thank you all. We'll stick with Dr. Webb's pronouncement that we're awesome. I don't think I'm going to top that in terms of professional qualifications. I am representing a large extended team of very talented people from many disciplines who've helped us move forward with this project. A key creative collaborator, Rick Russell, is with me, and he and I, with faculty, will be describing the building and its constituent parts as we walk around. But to set the stage for that, we might talk about what exactly the building is doing. And primarily it is carrying that great idea that Dr. Webb expressed. We're profoundly grateful for that opportunity to have articulated the idea. And it's an idea that has to resonate at 3 different levels. First, and what's most personal for all of us, is the level of a home. The best center is really 3 houses, which both demonstrate the way it could be and the way to make it happen. It would work that someone like me, who sees a good weekend as one that involves at least 12 trips to the local hardware store, could drive by and say, you know, I could do that. Or more fundamentally, why aren't all houses more like this? It's also working at a second level, joining a mature academic intellectual community. It has to be an extension of that community, both in terms of the embedded pedagogy in the project, and it also has to work physically, gracefully in joining that campus as well. It should point a path forward for those existing buildings, which still have many years of life in them, and say, here's what it could take to actually achieve a transformation in the way these buildings conserve energy. And finally, I think most critically for all of us, it is that idea of the transformative potential to demonstrate best practices in construction, the way it should be everywhere, and building on the college's now national reputation and leadership in this area, that anyone would drive by and say, why aren't all buildings net zero? Thanks very much for having us, and we'll walk around actually looking at those building parts that are going to help it make so.
This job.